Welcome, great to have you on the show, John.
Thanks, Noshina.
Looking at the latest financial results of the city of Joburg, are there any reasons for the citizens to be concerned?
Well, I think it's certainly encouraging signs. I think the sort of prerequisite to building a greater city is first getting the financial stability. And it looks very much like they've done that. They've been running a fiscal surplus, 8% growth in revenues. They are reporting something in the line of 90 or over 90% collection rates of the various tariffs and taxes. Mm-hmm. So all in all, the macro picture, pretty good. And I guess to confirm that, a Fitch ratings upgrade late last year as well, which is supportive of that. So I say that's a prerequisite. It's only the start, but it's a good start. It looks like a step in the right direction towards turning the corner, if you could call it that, for the city of Joburg.
Sure, and it is a dramatic turnaround if we have to look back to the 1990s when the city was struggling around finances. But the concern is still around the payment, the spending, the cost of utility services. Why is that?
Well, yes, I think that's one thing. I guess if you want to be a competitive city. Now, I think what we've seen over the past decade or maybe a bit more is strong competition for Joburg coming from Cape Town. There was a time when, if you didn't have your head office in Joburg, you're just silly. It's a no-brainer. You've got to be in Joburg. It is the place, the city of gold. That's not so obvious anymore. Certainly the Western Cape has been a strong competitor, also a well-managed metro with a much vaunted lifestyle for the high-skilled population. And competition is always good, but you've got to come back with a counter. So Joburg has sort of lost its edge as the undisputed leader, I guess. Now it's got competition. What do you have to do? Well, one of the things you have to do, obviously, besides urban planning and creating good lifestyle and a good infrastructure, but you also have to be price competitive. So we have had big municipal rates and tariffs increases over the past number of years. That's more and more. That is one of the tools in competing. Can you offer companies cheaper rates than competing cities? Mm-hmm. We've got to see ourselves as competing with other metros, and that may mean that there's limited scope in future to carry on raising municipal rates and tariffs.
John, let's look at the numbers, the figures itself. The city's cash equivalents at year-end amounted to 4.9 billion rand, excluding 3.7 billion rand reserved for future debt redemption. Please, if you can explain the impact of this.
Well, it's what it sounds like is the city of Joburg, yes, wants to lower or pay off some of that debt, pay it down, and that's what you typically do when you've got surpluses. You've got less to, you don't have to borrow as much anymore. You can retire some of the debt. So, again, you carry on doing that for a number of years. Suddenly, the percentage of whatever you're spending on paying interest towards debt diminishes, and you free up more funding in future for important services, hopefully the capex.
What are the longer term risks to increasing capital expenditure, especially when we have a low growth outlook?
Well, this is obviously the challenge, is a low growth outlook can mean more of a battle in terms of, if you've got low economic growth, you have low business growth, and you can therefore have less growth in municipal rates and tariff revenues. So you have to cut your coat according to your cloth, and that can be a risk to something like capital expenditure. Now, capital expenditure is it's good to see good growth rates in capex, because we know that the city of Joburg's infrastructure has been under immense pressure from urbanization and big population growth over the years, but also from too low capex levels over a couple of decades before. A lot of catch-up has to be played, and I think it's fairly obvious to the listener. I mean, we've seen road infrastructure really creaking under the congestion, and it's that has to be turned around. It's not the same old infrastructure that we used to provide. 30, 40 years ago, it was all about road infrastructure. Now, more and more, it's got to become about public transport infrastructure and actually decreasing that burden on things like transport.
Thank you for your valuable time. Great talking to you as always.